you mean by that? Because I think I'm laughing and knowing what you mean.
Well,
But
yeah, it's the idea of, it's one of those times where I'm going to put it all on my sex for the sole purpose of the fact that, for the most part, men could care less. It's just one more day, except for we throw it in their face all the time. But it is the last holiday in a string where the girl who's been dating a guy for, we'll say, 6 months or longer, and in some cases, 3 days or longer, depending on who she happens to be. But they expect a ring at certain holidays. And so right after Thanksgiving, that kicks off. And so you've got Christmas, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and Valentine's Day. It's the gauntlet, if you will. And if you make it through Valentine's Day and he doesn't give you a ring and you don't break up, he's like, I got a whole another 9 months. And she's like, damn it.
No one ever says, I'm really hoping for that ring on Cinco de Mayo.
Right, exactly. Like it's like
it's
the
Arbor
gauntlet
Day. He
comes
gave
to
me
an
a
end.
tree
Yes.
ring. Yeah.
Yes. And so as someone who has never held Valentine's Day in particularly high esteem, I've also gotten some very questionable and suspect presents over the years. Mr. Bias is not what I would call a huge fan of said holidays. He does, however, know to send me the appropriate roses, the number, the color, etc. And now I don't even have to do that because I don't work in an office where other people will see them. So he has so little effort to put forth on Valentine's Day. He probably isn't even going to think about it this year, like at all.
A lucky man.
It is a non-event in our house for the most part.
My other recommendation for Valentine's Day is that we need to add more options to the traditional gifts because basically it's flowers, right? And here's basically if you're in a serious, it's red roses and at least a dozen, right? I mean, it's not if he gets 6, it means
if he sends 6, you're in trouble.
6 red roses.
You can keep that.
6 red roses is he's just not that into you.
Yeah, and make sure you get the color right too.
Yeah, that's right. Because like pink, there's friendship, and
white and
yellow, which means he's from Texas.
Right.
Orange
means he knows me.
There you go. The other kind of bizarre, heart-shaped boxes of chocolate. Which I guess they're cute the first time or two. I've been told to, knock it off. Because here's the thing. God forbid you're on a diet or you're trying to eat healthy or you're trying to reduce sugar or something like that.
They do have sugar-free candies, though.
I suppose, but
I know, but what's the fun in that?
Yeah, and so beyond that, a card? Like what? How many other stuff other than jewelry?
I have gotten some really interesting stuff over the years, as I have mentioned.
What is the worst Valentine's Day gift you've ever gotten?
All right, the worst Valentine's Day gift I have ever gotten, and this was way before 1-800-Flowers or one of the other Vermont teddy bears we're going to talk about a little bit later, were even available.
That's called foreshadowing, listeners.
Yes, but one of the Valentine's Days I had in college with Mr. Biased, when we were living in sin, he purchased for me a hairdryer and a chocolate pie.
A hairdryer and a chocolate pie.
And a card, which was very sweet.
Okay.
Now, this is how, just to give you an idea of how his brain works. My hairdryer had just blown up, so therefore I needed a new one.
It's a practical gift.
Yes, and so therefore it was something I needed immediately, and he could go get it and know that I wanted it. And he knew I liked chocolate silk pie. So that was a given. He felt like he had batted 1,000 on that, by the way, which is what made it so epic. It was our first Valentine's Day together, and it was absolutely epic.
I'm sure there are quite a few guys in the audience right now who are like, chocolate pie.
Exactly. It was like
bunch of Homer Simpson.
And he will to this day defend the chocolate pie.
I'm still thinking about, though, how it will go over in a couple of weeks when I say, honey, I knew the old vacuum broke, and so I just want you to know I was thinking of you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if the moment you start looking at a Valentine's gift and you say it's practical.
Yes, it's time to back away
you're
from that gift.
Practically out of a relationship at that point.
Yes, and you're practically sleeping on the couch already.
Yeah, so that's so I obviously look. I think we need, and people should throw this out. This would be a good chance to invite all of our social media users, the people using TJAMs on Twitter, people visiting our Facebook page. If you have a really good Valentine's Day gift idea, beyond
now's a good time to share because now's when you have to order it.
Because there are a lot of men out there who are looking for ideas.
And the thing about it is it doesn't. Speaking for myself, of course, I'm not a big fan of the holiday in the sense I don't think it needs to be overblown outside of occasional flowers if need be for competition's sake. But having said
keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things that it's just, I don't know. I think that you can show somebody that they're special other days. So it's that. Okay, call me whatever on that. But I think that it gets blown way out of proportion because, I mean, immediately after and during the Super Bowl ads, you started seeing Valentine's Day ads. Now, let's be realistic here, people. We're still talking about just buying chocolates and buying Hallmark cards because that's what everybody wants you to do. And I never hate on capitalism, so whatever everybody wants to buy, I'm down with. But it's one of those holidays that I think that people have a right to hate it. It's okay. Like, you don't have to hide your hate. I think you can kind of embrace it on this one.
I was going to say, considering how it's supposed to be about love, but generally generates...
Let the hate out your heart.
Feelings of insecurity and inferiority.
If you have hate in your heart, let it out.
I'm working on the new Valentine's Day promo. Valentine's Day, embrace the hate.
There you go. Because if anything says Valentine's Day, it's that little four-letter word, hate.
Yes.
Yeah, to say nothing of, but actually my final bit of thought of this is that David Frum had written this in a column. There are people who have been through bad divorces, people who have been through unlucky in love, things have not worked out for them. He recommended sending them flowers anonymously, sending them gifts anonymously, even if you don't love, even if they're not, just do it to make them feel like somebody's thinking of them and care about them.
That's actually a really nice idea.
He always says it gets more reaction than anything else he's ever written. So David Frum, kudos to you for that idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So if you know somebody out there who's, a little depressed around the holidays, and certainly now we're coming to the end of the gauntlet of those, then yeah, that's a fantastic idea and a way to surprise them. And the most important thing, though, is that you never tell them where they came from. Because then they'd be like, oh my God, that's so sad and pathetic.
Let them think that it came from...
Rob Lowe.
Exactly. Rob Lowe.
A secret admirer.
Secret admirer. Anyway. Or maybe
secret admirer, Rob Lowe. All right. Well, coming up in the next segment, we are going to continue talking about the love and lust involved with Valentine's Day, because there's one more thing coming out in a week that's making everyone all hot and bothered. 50 Shades of Grey when we come back.
It starts here with a lightly toasted bun. And then a pure beef hamburger, sizzling hot. A slice of cheddar blend cheese, and some crisp, fresh lettuce. Then, our own secret sauce. The club slice, toasted. Another hamburger, and a little more sauce just for good flavor. Crisp dill pickles, and the sesame seed crown. This is the sandwich. McDonald's new Big Mac sandwich for the bigger-than-average appetite. McDonald's is your kind of place.
Now, back to the Jim and Mickey Show.
Hi, I'm Mickey White, and welcome back to the Jim and Mickey Show. This is the portion of the program that if for some reason you still have your children in the room, you might want to go ahead and ask them to leave now or wait to play this at a later time.
They have iPads in the other room,
Well, the most important thing is that you understand that we're about to discuss what is really sweeping the nation. The one issue that is making everyone in America all hot and bothered. And of course, I'm talking about 50 Shades of Grey. And with this question, I throw it to you, Jim Garrity, the man who I never thought I'd have to ask a question like this to.
Just say nothing of me never expected to be asked that. Yes, Mickey.
Has S&M gone mainstream?
Oh, wow. That's exactly the conversation I expected to have on this program. I'm going to observe that the 50 Shades movie, I actually think is one of the more interesting high-risk pop culture phenomenons we've seen come down the pike.
High-risk how?
Well, here's the thing. So it's a huge set. Like apparently there was a Super Bowl ad. It said that there was 100 million copies of this in print. Mm-hmm. So obviously it doesn't get much more mainstream than that.
No.
The trailer apparently downloaded and watched like 250 million times.
And
and all the good stuff is at the end. So you have this, and this. So this, it kind of like this. How on earth are they ever going to make a movie about this? Very popular novel that's got really intense S&M sequences in it, and because on the one hand, it's got a very female audience for the books.
Didn't we kind of test the waters with this with Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Perhaps
It
somewhat.
gives me that same vibe.
Okay.
In the way that the trailer runs.
Right.
And speaking of which, by the way, even though it's unlikely I will watch the movies until they're free on HBO or something, because I can't see. This is one of those ones you don't necessarily want to see as a group activity.
No, you want to see that with your special someone and no one else.
So I do wonder how it's going to do at
Yeah.
box office.
Okay.
You don't want to pile into a small car with your group right after the movie, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but
No
no, again,
Fiat
it
Uno.
gives me that same kind of gritty feel. But again, going back to the trailer, one of the things I absolutely love about it is that they use Crazy in Love by Beyonce, and they did it as a slow tempo song.
Yeah.
That song by itself is sexy. Like, if that's the way they're setting this movie up, they better deliver.
Yeah.
Because there are some really frustrated housewives that are going to be mad if they don't.
I was going to observe that, like, there's no way to make this like if you make a tame 50 Shades movie, it's kind of like going to the Playboy Mansion to admire the architecture.
Right.
It's not really about that, okay? You know,
Yes.
some people might say that, you know, they're obviously some people are very attached to the characters, but you couldn't do this move. Like it originally started apparently as fan fiction of the Twilight series,
Something like that.
right?
yeah.
So you take out all the handcuffs and all the blindfolds and all that stuff. I'm not so sure it's that compelling a story. That this
I
is
don't
what you know.
think that that's why people care. No, I mean it's basically rich dude, poor girl,
Very
naive.
Cinderella-ish in a,
yes,
you know.
very, I mean it's the story ages old as time. Doe-eyed
Yeah.
girl, wealthy man, blah, except for wealthy man then handcuffs girl, blindfolds her, and ties her up for a couple days.
Okay, but here's the other element, which I think, for everyone who wants to snicker at this and say, oh, this indicates, I think, the feminine mind at work. The protagonist, Gray, is the bad boy who falls in love and becomes the good boy, right? Or who gets tamed, who
Okay.
does, and all that stuff. Taming the savage beast is very much the theme.
But that's yes.
Okay,
I
and
think
so-
again the theme that we've.
If you want to argue that men have unrealistic visions of their ideal woman, I think this is the women's equivalent of, I'm going to find the billionaire who has this,
Helicopter.
who has a helicopter. Yes, exactly. It doesn't get much
And he's
more
going
Prince
to whisk
Charming.
me away.
Yeah.
Well, yes, again, it's Prince Charming with a whip.
There you go.
It's just, he is Prince Charming. He just likes a little rough. And apparently, so does everyone else. Because this is the thing. Much like we talked about with some of that Guilty Pleasures TV that we talked about last week, these books have done astronomically well. They have already sold out on Fandango for their opening weekend when this movie comes
Really?
out. Yes.
Whoa, all right. I
So,
didn't know that.
again, here's the situation. People are going to see this movie. Is this going to be one of those movies that people see and they run into their neighbors while they're there and like, oh, hey, I didn't realize you were coming to see this movie. I didn't know. Do you have handcuffs in your basement too?
Hey, coming to theaters next Friday. Awkward run-ins with people you know.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
You're
look,
gonna
isn't
turning-
that Pee Wee Herman over there?
Oh, see, exactly.
You're going to be turning 50 Shades of Red when you run into your
yes.
coworkers and
Yes,
stuff.
definitely.
All right, speaking of coworkers, the esteemed and fine Catherine Lopez of National Review, one of the go-to writers I turn to on all things religious, set a record in being the first National Review contributor to link to a website featuring, it's the Vermont Teddy Bear Company, known for making and selling these cute, adorable teddy bears. And Valentine's Day is a very big time of year.
Oh, that's a huge holiday for them. They're all over. Major radio ads, etc.
So Vermont Teddy Bear Company, in probably what I'm going to say is the most ill-conceived marketing tie-in of all time, is now selling the Christian Grey teddy bear.
No.
Now, I can't think of two things more incongruous than this series of books. And then a cute little teddy who's in a suit and who apparently has a little handcuff with him and a little blindfold
Yes,
with
he's got
him.
handcuffs and a little blindfold. I'll see if I can get a picture up on our Facebook page. If you
No,
haven't seen
you don't
it.
need to do that.
Oh
That's,
yes, yes, I do. And he's a little teddy bear in a little suit, and he's got a little blindfold in one hand and little handcuffs in the other.
If you look-
And he costs like $100, I'm sure, because
Yeah.
they're not cheap. But you then can too have your little S&M bear, which then taking me back to my original point. It has gone mainstream, and it already has been. So now the freaks are out. Will this open up? And I have no problem with the S&M crowd. Just open it up to all those other initials, and some of you know what I'm talking about. But